What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us again on another amazing episode of Breaking Bread, the podcast. Today we have a special episode. We have the Backyard Boogie BBQ episode with our friend Eve.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eve Valdez. I'm a foster youth advocate and mental health advocate here cooking my favorite street dish, Kielbasas, and plated as a hot dog, with the pasta salad. So going to be talking it up with Chef JZ and Jorge.
That's right. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah,
We're very
absolutely.
excited to have you on the show. Very excited to try your kielbasas with cheese on a bun with some Italian pasta, some chips. It sounds good to me.
You know,
yes.
we said Backyard Boogie. We said, you know, it's a beautiful day outside. But what about this dish inspired you to create it today for us?
When I was creating this dish, I think I started this around maybe when I was like 15. So I'm homeless, living in Pomona. And
Wait. When you were 15, you were homeless, living in Pomona.
Yeah, well, starting at 13. But I didn't start getting creative until like I was a little bit older.
Okay, but could we go a little bit into being homeless at that age?
Yeah, actually, talking about mental health and why we're here. So I started, hitting the streets at 13 because I started self-harming actually. And I was being cared for of my guardian at that time. And she didn't understand why I was self-harming because she took me from the foster system. So she thought because of that, because I had a home, because, I had food and everything was taken care of.
Kind of thought you were good.
I was supposed to be fine.
Got you.
But really I was acting out because I didn't know who my dad was. So I didn't have that. My mom, was battling addiction, all the trauma I had dealt with before.
So because of the trauma, at that such young age, I'm not really familiar with self-harm, which thank you for sharing, because
absolutely.
that's very, that's a big issue today. And please educate.
It might be happening to somebody that's going to watch this episode.
A lot of people.
And it's awareness where you were at and how you got away from that and where you're at now.
Right.
So that's important.
Yeah, I want to know. Like, can you elaborate a little bit more of self-harm? Because to be honest with you, I don't know what that is, and I want to know what you went through.
I think at that time my guardian's name is Mean Jolene, so there really is no coming out and talking about why you're sad, because it's like everything's done for you now. You're out of that life. Like, why are you sad? And so I felt like I was dealing with so much internally. That's how I was like externally trying to get out all of my frustration. I had so much frustration, and when you're so young and you're trying to be a good child, you just internally deal with it on yourself because you're so angry. And so I felt like that's where that was coming from.
Tough for you at that age and overcoming that?
Yeah, and what made it difficult is because she was with the older generation. So she took me to my primary care doctor to ask why I was doing that.
Which they don't know.
Yeah, and that's why they referred her to take me to a mental, health facility. They weren't answering. So she said, if you're so miserable here, then just go and leave somewhere. And since you're not happy here,
And that's what took you to the streets.
You were getting shut down. Your doors were closing all around you.
Yeah.
And you felt like nobody was going to be able to help you.
Yeah, because she tried her best, but talk therapy wasn't working for me. Art wasn't working for me. And so I was just still
all those
frustrated.
Tools.
Yeah, exactly.
But wait. Can we go back a little bit to the part of being homeless? How does a young, what age did you say?
13.
13. How does a young girl at 13 on the streets, were you by yourself? Were there people that in your circle? But how did you get out of that?
So it started off in my mom's boyfriend's RV. So I was living there by myself. Again, my own rules, can be there whenever I wanted to, do whatever I wanted.
At 13, running your own program.
Yeah,
wow.
And so that's how that started.
Did that seem normal to you at the time? Was it like...
Yeah, and for me at that age, it was kind of like the best. Because you don't know that you're missing out on other opportunities, such as like school opportunities, internship opportunities. You're like, what? I don't have no parents, no nothing. I can do whatever I want. I was the coolest person, And so at that time, you don't understand what you're missing out on. You don't know where the trajectory of your life is going to go. You're just having the time of your life, at that point.
You're living for the now.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
sometimes you deal with your darkest moments when you really start to think at night, like, damn, I have no, family who really understands me, who's really, has it all together, who can really pour into me. Everyone, all my family struggling and doing their own thing. So you kind of just feel alone.
So let me ask you this, like, so saying, because you had, all the materialistic stuff, you had the shelter and all that, what in your mind, like, what were you lacking at that point before your foster parents told you, what,
Yeah.
we provided all we can, you're still not happy,
Yeah.
go figure it out, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So in your opinion now, or in your mind, like, what do you think you were lacking? Were you lacking a hug?
It
Were you
was my
lacking-
mother, getting sober. That was me being
That was
angry.
what you were lacking.
And so
Oh.
when she ended up going, so she got out of jail, because when we got taken away, she went to jail, and they told her, we will let you out if you go to these classes.
Sure.
And so when she was going to the classes, she met this guy who wasn't really active anymore, but would act active.
She had
And she
ties,
just
yeah.
she left the drug program to go be with him. That's where they met. And so for me, I tried to get along with him. His name's Smokey. Shout out to him. We're good now. He changed his life too. But
That's right.
at the time,
That's
we would
right,
beef
Smokey.
it. Yeah. At the time, we would beef it tough,
Yeah.
because I'm the oldest, and then he's my mom's boyfriend. So we're both trying to, put our guard down.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And so him trying to come and be the man, which I wasn't used to. I was used to being the oldest and being my own provider, growing
And
up.
running your own program.
And he would be like, you have to protect the hood here.
Yeah.
This is your, your battlefield. Like,
Yeah.
no one could come over here. And it was just rules.
So he was at the same time he was giving you
Structure.
He was giving you etiquette,
Yeah.
say please, thank you, all that. He was still
Yeah.
part of your life in that way.
And I didn't like how he would talk with authority to me. And that's what, it's like, who are you? Like, I am my
Right.
authority.
When you got
Sure.
two egos,
No, yeah.
going at it. It's
Yeah.
like you're used to being,
at,
hey,
at
in
the same
house.
time, I think that has to do with the whole stepdad, like, not that
Yeah.
it was your stepdad, but he was playing that role.
Yeah.
For a young girl, I think especially to have a new man come into the pad, and
that's tough.
and he's coming and he's
Well, it was his
enforcing.
pad.
Oh, it was his pad, and he was the enforcer.
Yeah.
So, man, I could see how that could be challenging, because
Yeah.
anytime you're living with a step parent or a stepmom, stepdad,
Yeah.
or step siblings, like,
Yeah.
that's testing.
Right.
And I'm a
Like,
Taurus,
that's testing.
so,
That's testing
yeah.
your
Oh.
It didn't work
your
with
self
me.
character.
So
for sure.
was this one of the dishes that you used to make when you were?
Well, see, because we would beef it so much, I just went to go live in Alley with all my big homies there.
Wow.
And so ended up just finding my place there. That's when I started really getting older, looking prettier. So I started getting connections more and more to start selling weed bigger and bigger. Kind of just really took over that area, and that was solid. I was having things coming in, coming out, making my own money. Yeah. And so they would, teach me how to cook the barbecue. So it's funny because my big homie say so. He taught me how to make these on the grill, but the thing, he would burn them every single time. And one year the firefighters came to the park, and someone had said that something was on fire. And
It was a sausage.
Yeah, it was him cooking. It was
it was the
cooking.
Calbasas that were on fire.
But was he burning them because he was forgetting about them, or because
I
that's
don't
how
know.
he
You
liked
just
them?
can't cook. Sorry to say so, but you can't cook. And
So you perfected the dish pretty much.
Yeah, so with this, it was super easy because at that time when I was young, I justified stealing and running amok because I was the ward of the court. So it's like, you're not taking care of me. The system's not taking care of me. I'm going to take care of myself. So
At
you
whatever
can't tell me
cost.
anything. Yeah. So I had that type of mentality when I was younger. So we would go in, all of us, run in, steal the food, come back out, steal somebody's charcoal off the porch, and go to the park, cook this. And so this was like my survival meal at the time.
Eve was up
And it
to
was-
no good.
No.
That's, you know what? Sometimes you have to do what you got to do to get by. But you know what? And unfortunately, that has to do with sometimes some illegal things. But we got to be ready to pay the consequence.
Honestly,
right?
I'm glad that you're here telling us a story.
Yeah. that's-
Yeah.
And that was something that you used to do versus something that you still do.
No, absolutely. And I think
know?
now being a mother of 3, this is
Oh,
looks
wow.
differently for me.
That's right.
Yeah, because it's cheap and it's super fast to make. I have my hands in so many projects and contracts right now that
for you.
I have to, learn
awesome.
about
Yeah.
different ways how to make them.
Eve is not wasting no time time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what do we got today, Eve? What's our backyard barbecue episode consisting of today?
So this dish right here is pasta salad. Really easy to throw it together. The only thing you have to cook really is just the pasta.
Okay.
But you just let it boil. And so throw in all of your veggies.
Looks fire.
Which you can even roast your veggies, cook your veggies how you want.
So roast the veggies before you put it into the pasta salad? That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like roasted veggies is
Yeah, you can put them in the oven. You can saute them. You can
Right
keep
on.
them raw. I mean, it's all up to you.
That's
but
crazy.
This is,
I'm
this
gonna
looks
try
amazing.
it. I'm gonna try it with roasted
This looks
veggies.
amazing.
That
It looks
sounds-
fresh.
Yeah, I feel like
All the
people who get
beautiful
vegetables
colors.
raw,
Little beautiful
They're
colors.
healthy.
Thank you.
they're doing it right.
That's
And
right.
then the kielbasa here is more potent, I feel like, than regular hot dogs. I feel like regular hot dogs is really basic.
Yeah.
It's not filling. So the kielbasas are thicker, they're juicy, and they have more flavor. And then you just throw cheese inside. So there's the shredded cheese.
So do you always use that type of sausage or do you change it up from time to time?
Just the same.
Okay.
Just the same sausage.
So I heard you say you had some kids. How old are they?
Yeah, so I have 3 kids now. I just had my 3rd son about 6
Congratulations.
weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. So yeah, and then my daughter, she's 4, and my son, he's 2.
So let me ask you this. Have your kids experienced the delight of kielbasa grilling?
Yeah.
They tear them up?
Oh yeah, they love everything. All the cheat
Nice.
meals, all the they don't really like the expensive stuff.
They keep it
just
simple. That's, you know what?
Yeah.
Sometimes the simpler things in life are better.
So look at this dish. Beautiful, beautiful colors. I could already tell the textures. Do you add anything to this hot dog kielbasa? Do you add
a
anything?
bag of chips.
A bag of chips.
You need it with a bag of chips.
Okay, but no ketchup, mustard, none of that.
I'm a no condiments person.
Okay.
Anyone else can do that, but see, again, like when we're in the streets, we have no refrigerator. If we wanted to keep, we can give it to one of the homies who was living in the apartments, but we lived in the dirt lot in our cars, so it was,
There was no refrigeration to keep a bottle of
Everything
ketchup
was like
or-
made to order type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I hear
Technically.
you. But at the same time, if you stop and think, I mean, this is it's a good sausage. It's like cooking a good piece of meat or a good piece of fresh chicken. You don't want to do too much to it because then you take away from the actual flavor.
That's true.
That's right, chef.
Yeah.
That's right,
Can we
chef.
dig
No,
in, or-
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
getting that little chef aspect
But
of things, and I see you working over
I'm
there.
ready to jump in. So,
Um,
can we get in there or? I'm gonna start with the.
you're going kielbasa?
I
Man.
felt like it's Gordon Ramsay tasting my food right
Oh
now.
my god!
Oh, for sure. Gordon Ramsay Latino version.
You know what?
How was it?
Nice crunch.
The
You got
snap?
the bread's a little toasted.
He sounds like my husband when I'm burning the food. That's what he says when I burn the food.
Did you get the snap off the sausage?
Absolutely, I did.
Because that's what I'm looking for. Here we go.
Absolutely, I did. Yeah, I mean, it has the casing is amazing. So,
The hot dog, of course, is just something that you can cook up in maybe like 10 minutes. That's it.
Quick, huh?
So something for busy moms, and I think that's something, especially being overwhelmed, me dealing with postpartum right now, I really have to think strategically on how to maximize my time, since I'm like, how I cope, I think, with my intrusive thoughts and everything is just staying busy. So I'm a workaholic. Now that's toxic for other people, but I feel like I'm personally different because I don't watch TV and I don't have social media.
oh wow,
People have to budget their time for that. But I feel like I budget my time to work. My contracts. That's my downtime.
Important.
That's me, doing
So-
fun things.
Yeah.
You say I've heard you mention contracts. I mean, Eve, I think it's the best time to tell the people what you do now. Like, you went through homelessness at the age of 13.
Being on the street, that's tough.
A young woman on the streets of Pomona, grilling up in a dirt lot, living out of your car and living out homies' cars. How old were you when you had your first child?
I got pregnant at 19 and then I had her at 20.
So now you had to grow up even faster, right? Because you had a
Yeah.
baby. how do you like do you ever have to get away from the everyday hustle and cook to get your mind off of things? Do you use it? Does that help you?
I think only for my dish, which is enchiladas. And so, yeah. And I think that serving other people that dish is what makes me happy.
Got you.
Yeah, because doing the whole shredding piece and having to roll it, that's really, tedious.
But what gives you that satisfaction when they first go in and they taste it and
The compliment.
and then they look and they're like, no, because I get that exact same feeling, and it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
But
When you're serving your people?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you get that feedback, you're like, you know what, that was good, or
Exactly.
know.
Exactly. So just, like having someone say, all the time, that's what you're known for, like your dish, and people come over and they're asking you for it. So I think like that's one thing that I like.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I made it for my mother-in-law when I was first dating my man, and I was just like, do you really like it?
And she liked it?
Yeah, she did. She said she
Dang.
did. I hope you do.
She said, Eve, you're the one.
So a lot of the things that I do involve, mentoring foster youth, mentoring people who have, justice involved experience and stuff. And so from a life coaching, perspective, or another organization, I coach them on how to, use their lived experience to advocate, in the state capital or our nation's capital. And so I'll train them on how to do that. And then I was just in Sacramento the other day. I was training them on how to talk about and use their story to advocate for a bill. We set up meetings with our legislators and with our policymakers. They get to pitch that. So I have my hands in a couple different things, but and this goes with your question of, what advice would I give? And I think that's something that, I hear constantly is make money doing what you love to do.
Exactly.
And with your hobbies and stuff.
Yes, yes.
And for me, I loved, making money and making fast money, and having fun while making money. And what I really found my passion is taking people who are like surviving, and then training them on what makes them happy, what they feel like their purpose is, and then connecting them with someone to give them that opportunity. And so
Nice.
right now, I'm working this contract with DCFS.
So you're talking with people, asking like what their mojo is.
Yeah.
They tell you what their thing is, and you help guide them on that road to get them to what
Yeah.
they want to do.
Yeah, I mean,
That's amazing.
I'm a Christian, and I went to one of my, homies in the streets told me I should go to Biola University, and so I went to Biola University because they were doing this training program at the time called Urban Ministry. And so it's for basically called like street preaching.
Okay.
And how to develop leaders to be Christian leaders. And so a part of that was just basically finding their purpose in life and using all of the hardships.
Using it as
do that.
momentum for them to be the best.
Exactly. And so for me, being in the streets, being a foster youth, I've used all my lived experience to become a lived experience expert, right?
That's
I'm putting
amazing.
myself in those places.
You have an amazing story, and I mean, thank you so much for sharing it. I'm sure you're going to connect with a lot of people watching this episode, but I mean, keep going. I mean, there ain't no stopping you now.
All right. So Eve, I mean, we have one thing missing here, and that's what's the motivational message you got out there for a young girl that may be between the ages of 13 and 18,
Or a young boy, or a young boy.
Yeah, or a young boy living on the streets. And what's
Right.
like what's something that saved you that you want to share?
What saved me was actually meeting someone who had lived experience, who was an owner of a multimillionaire 501c3, who was a mentor, who was a Christian, but he had a background. He was a felon. He was an ex-gang member. And once because I didn't start school until 4th grade. So I don't know people. I don't know their background. I don't know what's possible. I'm was incorporated into society late. Yeah. And so once I heard that, I really thought wow, things are not black and white. You're not because I thought I was raised to be a hustler, you know? But once I saw his background, I was like, I can be Christian. I can go to a soft girl era and change my life and actually explore college and education.
And at a young age, you were thinking all this at a young age.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it took hearing someone's story to actually step into thinking about new possibilities for myself. So
right.
I think for everyone out there, you know, knowing that even if you grew up in traumatic, you know, environments, even though you grew up with a whole family who's doing something different and you want to explore a healthier way out, I think that's completely possible for you.
Wow. Just to keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep pushing forward.
And obviously, you know, just talking to you and getting to know you, just your ambition and you wanting to keep growing and keep climbing, and I think that's amazing for people listening, and where you were at to where you're at now. I mean, it's possible for anybody. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eve's the bomb. Eve's the bomb. Thank you for being with us.
I want to take these with me. I'm gonna take these with me.
Thank you for sharing your story and sharing your recipe with this amazing barbecue. Thank you. And we wish you nothing but the best in life. And if you ever need anybody to talk to or to help you in the culinary world, you got two friends here forever.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next is barbecued vegetables. We're doing.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.